Get to the chopper! Your clothes, give them to me. They are not stylish enough. It's not a tumor. It's Guy's Daily Drive. Okay, everybody, welcome to Guy's Daily Drive. It is Thursday, April 5th. I'm positive it is Thursday, April 5th. I had to give myself a self-inflicted slap on the wrist because I said it was Tuesday, April 4th in the last Guy's Daily Drive, but no, it was Tuesday, April 3rd. See, the days just kind of roll into each other after a while. So I did a Mac to the Future last night, and something weird happened just as we were getting ready to record. I could not get the audio, all these problems seem to be related to audio. I could not get the audio to do what I needed it to do, which was, in essence, allow me to be able to hear Warren on Skype. For the most part, not hear myself, because if you hear yourself, there's always a slight delay when you're recording audio from the time that you say it until the time that you hear it. Now, this is what's known as latency. Latency can make you sound like you're drunk because your brain, hearing your own voice when you speak naturally, there's no delay. You speak and your ears hear it instantaneously. Whereas when you're speaking into a microphone, okay, well, the microphone takes some amount of time to register the vibrations of your voice, and depending on the microphone, turn it into a signal that's going to travel down wires. And these are all things that you'd sit there and think, well, it's like no time at all. Well, no, there is time involved. So then it goes down the cable into either an audio interface, which is going to also do some processing, and then that's going to push it back out either as an analog signal if you're using regular wiring, or a digital signal if if you have like a USB microphone. But everything is taking time. Everything is, the analog to digital conversion is taking time. All of the various devices to recognize that something is happening takes time. The computer receiving the signal has to process it. That takes time. And when you look at the actual time that this takes, I mean, it can happen if you have a really, really good system. You may have well under 50 milliseconds of latency, but you can still hear it. But 50 milliseconds is not that big a deal. You start getting into the hundreds of milliseconds, and you end up kind of hearing your voice twice. You hear it when you speak, even if you're wearing headphones. The vibrations of your voice inside of your own head, you hear that almost automatically, in real time. And then if you're monitoring it, you can hear it as well through your headphones. So what I typically like to do is, before I start, get a sample of how I sound in the recording, make whatever adjustments I have to make so that it sounds good enough for me, and then turn off my own monitoring because I don't want to hear my own voice. Then if I'm on Skype or Discord or some other voice over IP network, then I bring them in and I sample them and make sure that they sound pretty good, and I make sure they can hear me and that I sound pretty good to them. If there's any other audio programs that are involved, sound cards or movie files in a browser or what have you, check all those, make sure they all work. And this is something that you do every single time, pretty much every single time. And when it goes wrong, as it did last night just before we got started, it can go horribly, horribly, horribly wrong and can be almost unfixable. Now, I did manage to get it just the way I wanted, where I could hear Warren and he could hear me, and Ecamm Live could hear both of us and was registering both of us, but it wasn't the way that I normally do it. Because I put in an ad and because I have opening credits and closing credits, when I select those scenes in Ecamm Live, it mutes my microphone. What it doesn't do is mute the Skype microphone. So I had originally come up with a way so that both my microphone and Skype were coming over into Ecamm on the same audio channel. So when I was muted, so was whoever it was I was speaking to on Skype. But I would also have to make it so that I could still hear them without hearing myself. So you can see my dilemma, my problem, amongst many. So after we got done, and I was listening back to it and going through some rudimentary editing, it's actually much easier. I know this is going to sound weird. It takes me much less time to edit this show, Guy's Daily Drive, and the Mac to the Future livecast, which is video. And you would think, oh, it's video, so it must be harder. It's like, no, it's... Once the syncing problem went away that I was having, it's actually relatively easy because I know right where we start and I know right where we end. So when you're doing something live, you basically just get rid of the stuff at the beginning and the stuff at the end that you don't want, and everything else you just keep. But the thing that I noticed was that Warren's audio and my audio were like all over the place and couldn't quite figure out why. And it wasn't until after we got done recording that I started looking at stuff, and I went into the system preferences on the Mac, and I noticed that none of my audio sources were there, because I was also trying to do some stuff in Audio Hijack, and it wasn't. None of my audio sources were in any program that I was looking for. It just kept saying, nope, not there, not there. And it was like, well, what the heck? So I started looking at the mixer that I have. This is a Behringer Xenix 1204 USB mixer. It's not a great mixer, but it's not a bad mixer either. It has 2 auxiliary channels, so I can set up 2 completely different mix minuses, which can be quite handy if you're doing things in analog, which I'm not currently, but I think I will be moving to soon. But while I still had Audio Hijack open, and it was showing me that all these audio sources, either inputs or outputs, weren't there, I pulled the USB cable out of the mixer, and as soon as I did that, all my audio sources came back, which tells me one of two things. Either I have a flaky cable, and when I put the cable back in, everything started working again, or somehow or another, maybe there's a problem with the mixer, or maybe it just kind of got out of sync as I was doing a bunch of different stuff. But something definitely got wonky, and it wasn't the computer, because anytime I'm getting ready to record, one of the things that I do in my repertoire is restart the computer. So I physically turn the computer off and then bring it back on again, and then set up everything that I need to do. So if it's the cable, well, that's relatively easy. A USB-A, which is the rectangular flat, to USB-B, which is that sort of squarish connector, USB connector, that you'll see. It's like on the back of printers and things like that. Most printers have a USB-B connector coming off the back of it. Well, those are relatively cheap, and I've got a ton of those somewhere. I've got lots of cables. If it's the mixer, then I have some choices to make. I could go much simpler. I have another mixer I can use. It's an Alesis multi-mix for USB. The preamps on that mixer aren't the greatest, but it doesn't matter, because I'm using a cloud lifter as kind of a preamp, so I can mostly bypass the Alesis preamp completely. It hardly even matters. And if for whatever reason that's a problem, I also have FedHead preamps and all kinds of things along those lines. But I need to make a decision over if I'm going to keep this as kind of a mix of analog and digital sources, or if I'm going to attempt to go mostly analog, mostly analog. And it was easier when I had the Mac Pro, because that had a ton of USB connectors, so I could go all digital. It had a ton of analog ins and outs, so I could go all analog if I wanted to. It's not as easy with an iMac. So that's the dilemma that I'm facing. I'll talk about this more as time goes on. How long have I been recording here? 14 minutes. It's starting to get near the end. So, MacStock 2018 is coming up in Woodstock, Illinois. You can still get discounted tickets. It's going to be July 21st and 22nd of 2018 in Woodstock, Illinois. It's going to be a really good time. Bob Levitas is doing the keynote. Tim Robertson from MyMac and Tech Fan and I are doing the MyMac game show. There's going to be lots of different speakers. And essentially for well under $200, you can get a ticket to an all-weekend event, and from Friday night until Sunday afternoon, you won't have to pay. I doubt you'll have to pay much for food. Everything is going to be pretty much included, and most of the hotels in that area have hot breakfasts and things like that. So under $200, come and find out what the community was like with the Macworld Expo. It's very, very similar. It's that same kind of vibe. If you'd like to get a hold of me and tell me what you like or don't like about Guy's Daily Drive, you can send me email, guy@mymac.com or guy@mttfgo.com. You can reach me on the Twitters. I am Mac Parrot over there on the Twitters. We even have a Skype number. You can call our Skype number, 703-436-9501, 703-436-9501. And I will see you guys next time. Yeah, on Guy's Daily Drive.